Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm Em and I can't believe it, but we are going to be talking about my TBR for January of 2025. So hopefully you have already watched my reading plans for 2025. If you haven't, I'll link it somewhere up here and you can go check that out. That will kind of give you an outline for how my TBR is going to go, at least starting out. We'll see if this is a sustainable model for subsequent months, but for now, this is where we're starting out. I am wiping my TBR clean. I definitely did not read all the books that were on my December TBR for 2024, but that's okay. We are just putting those books back on the shelf. I'm not rolling anything over. I'm not getting rid of those books. Like, I still want to read those books and they still could come up in TBRs this year, but I'm just not going to roll anything over. I'm going to start with a clean slate, a fresh start, which is my favorite. I love the new year so much. Okay, anyways, so we'll just dive right in. First off, I am kicking off my year of Butler and Gaskell with an Octavia E. Butler book. If you don't know what I'm talking about, again, go watch my reading plans video. I'll explain everything there. I am going to start with Kindred by Octavia E. Butler, and this was overwhelming right out of the gate because she has so many books and I really did not know where to start. So I did kind of a Google of where to start with Octavia E. Butler because I wasn't sure if there was like an order I should read her books in, if I should just go in publication order, if there's a particular series I should start with. And I did find a couple of blog posts and a couple of websites of people who had opinions of where to start. And there was just one that I decided to go with, and so I am going to start with Kindred because that was the first book on that particular blog post. So that's where I'm going to start. All I know about this one is that it involves time travel and a woman from, not our time, but whenever this book was written, I believe time travels back to a time in American history where she is an enslaved woman on a plantation. Again, this is why I've been intimidated by Butler books, is because I know thematically and content-wise her books are going to be heavier than what I am drawn to naturally, but I really think it's going to be good for me to explore some darker topics and some darker themes, and I think I will get a lot out of reading her book, even if I am so intimidated to start reading her book. But I'm going to start with Kindred. Yeah, so if you want to join me, let me know, and maybe we can have like a text thread on Instagram, or I can make a Fable page, or like we can do something. But if you want to read Kindred along with me, let me know in the comments down below and I'll figure out a way we can do that. Well, if you want to read Kindred with me, let me know if Fable or like an Instagram message group would be preferable, and I'll figure it out from there. And then I am also going to be doing Buzzword Reading Challenge again this year. Kayla did an announcement where she's with the prompts for Buzzword Reading Challenge, and then she's also doing a cover challenge. I don't know if I'm going to commit to doing the cover challenge. I am committing to doing Buzzword again. So the Buzzword for January is to read a book with truth or true, lies, liar, or lying in the title. And I did digging. I don't have anything on my physical TBR, but I do have a couple of things on my Libro.fm account that could fit this category. The first one that I thought of was An Academy for Liars by Alexis Henderson. I really loved A Year of the Witching by Alexis Henderson, and I wanted to read her other books. I have not seen great reviews for this one, so I don't know if this is the one that I want to read. It's also like a 13-hour audiobook, so it is a time commitment. And I just don't know if that's the route I want to go down. The other option on my Libro.fm account is Thief, Liar, Lady by D.L. Soria. I believe this is YA fantasy. I'll read you the little blurb paragraph that's on Libro.fm. Happily Ever After is a total scam, but at least this time the princess is the one controlling the grift, until her true love arrives and threatens to ruin the whole scheme. Intrigue, magic, and wit abound in the Cinderella fairy tale reimagining, perfect for fans of Heather Walter and Naomi Novik. So, first of all, joke's on me, this one's even longer than An Academy for Liars. The other hesitation is I do not like Cinderella retellings. It's like the one fairy tale retelling that almost never works for me. I just don't particularly enjoy it. So I'm a little hesitant. I haven't read Heather Walters yet, so I don't know if that comp works for me. I am very hit or miss with Naomi Novik. Like, I have DNF'd Spinning Silver, but then I really loved the Scholomance series. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna like that. So those are kind of the options that I'm circling around. I will, of course, like continue to keep my eyes open, and maybe something else will like drop in my lap that will work for that prompt, but that's kind of what I've got going on. Oof. Okay. One of my goals for my reading for 2025 is to continue reading at least one nonfiction every month, as well as working through my backlog of arcs that I have. And to tackle both of those, I think I want to read Wannabe by Aisha Harris this month. This is memoir. It's about pop culture. I believe Aisha Harris and I are of a similar age, and that the pop culture that she's going to talk about in this book is going to be stuff that was also really formative for me growing up. Like, it's going to talk about Spice Girls, Clueless, sitcoms that are kind of like The New Girl, things like that. And I was a big Spice Girls fan when I was 12 and 13. Like, I went and saw their world tour, and it was great. I also love Clueless, so I think this will be fun. I really love books about pop culture. I really love books written by people about how pop culture has influenced their adolescence and even their adulthood, and especially when it's pop culture that I also have a connection to. And I've just had this on my TBR for a really long time. It came out in 2023, and I bet I grabbed this at least a couple of months before it came out. It's just time to read this. It's just time to read this because I really think this is going to be in my little nonfiction niche that I love so much. I have two rereads that I'm planning on for January. January and February are my reread The Locked Tomb series months. I always say I'm going to do it in January. Sometimes I don't get around to it in February, but I reread Gideon 2 years ago. I reread Harrow last year, and so it is time to reread Nona the Ninth, which I've never reread. So I am really looking forward to diving back into this. I do read this along with, there's a podcast that I really love that does like really deep, spoilery recaps chapter by chapter. And I feel like that's been a really great way to consume this series after the first time through, because it does give me more insight into what is going on. And they pick up on stuff that just goes right over my head. And I feel like every time I read one of these books within the context of the podcast, I get more out of it and I understand more, and it just is a really enjoyable experience. So I'm really looking forward. I also, to rereading this, I also tend to annotate these books, but this is the first one I have with black sprayed edges, and I don't know if I want to maim this with tabs. We'll see. If you don't know what the Locked Tomb series is about, oh boy. Book one is, we follow Gideon, who has been like an indentured servant to the Ninth House, and she makes a bargain with the basically princess of the house, Harrow, that if Gideon will go and be Harrow's cavalier in this competition, like her bodyguard, then Harrow will release her from her indentured servitude. And book one is like a locked room mystery. There's a competition, there's trials, and it's great. I love it so much. And then each book after that, like, you definitely have to read them in order, but each book after that goes in totally different directions. In Harrow the Ninth, we're following Harrow, and it's just, that book is such a mindfuck because there's so much going on, and you really have to trust, like, if you're going to pick up this series, you have to be okay with being confused, and with just trusting that Tamsin Muir is going to give you the information that you need when you need it. But when you need it may not be when you think you need it, and I love it. I think she's so smart. These books are absolutely brilliant, but they're definitely not for everybody. And so Nona is following the events that happened in Harrow, but we're in a totally different environment. The characters that we followed for the first 2 books are not where we think they should be or who we think they are even. There's a lot of body sharing as the series goes on, and so I'm interested to reread this one and see if I follow things a little bit clearer than I did the first time. But with Tamsin Muir, I'm totally happy to just like follow along, and I trust that she'll get me where I need to be. The other book I'm wanting to reread is Empire of Light by Alex Harrow. Now, this is book 1 in the Voyance series. However, I'm pretty sure Alex Harrow is not writing this series anymore, which makes me sad. But this is an indie published sci-fi romance, and I picked this up initially because I was looking for books to give me Arcane vibes, because at the time I had just finished season 1 of Arcane. And now I have just finished season 2 of Arcane, and the series is now over, and it is my favorite TV series of all time. And I think it's just time to reread this one because I just remember it filling that void perfectly for me the first time around. This is set in a like dystopian Earth where the city has very much like Piltover vibes from Arcane. There is an upper city where everyone is very wealthy and well off and well taken care of. And then there is a lower city where everybody is just so poor and struggling so much. And this one does have a queer romance in it and has a very organized, button-up, responsible love interest and a total chaotic disaster love interest, which is really what I'm going for. I'm just trying to find the Caitlin and Vi vibes in books. So it's what I'm chasing right now. So I'm looking forward to rereading this because I've been wanting to do it for a while, even though there won't be any more books in the series. Speaking of series, I got the sequel to Immortal Longings for Christmas, so I really want to dive into Vilest Things. This is by Chloe Gong. This is her adult debut fantasy series. This is an Antony and Cleopatra retelling, which I haven't read that particular Shakespeare play, so I'm sure there are references to it in this series, but they're just going right over my head since I have no context for it. But this is also set in a kingdom where there is a drastic class difference. The rich are very rich and the poor are just struggling for their lives, literally. And this book 1 involved a competition, and this is just picking up where that one left off. I love Chloe Gong's writing so much. There is a romance in this, and Immortal Longings ended on such a bang that I'm really excited to see where she picks up with this. And I didn't put this in my goals for 2025, but my goal is to not let series linger this year. Like, I'm gonna be expeditious about picking up the next book in a series. And since I just finished Immortal Longings in December, I'm gonna pick this up in January. I'm also gonna keep going with Lady Darby series. I don't think I mentioned this in the goals video either, but I think I'm gonna try and do 1 Lady Darby book a month at least so that I don't forget to read them. I reread The Anatomist's Wife towards the end of 2024, and it is a historical mystery series, and Mortal Arts is book 2. And I'm putting it on my TBR so that I don't get into the same situation I got in the first time where I read The Anatomist's Wife like 5 years ago. Absolutely loved it, and then never continued on with the series. So I reread The Anatomist's Wife, so I remembered what happened. I remembered who all of our people are, and I want to read this one in January before I forget what happened. Also in January, Gabby is going to be hosting Winterween, which is the winter edition of Summerween, and I'm still kind of putting my TBR together for that. I'm still trying to figure out what all I want to read, but since it is like a winter horror readathon, I do want to read horror books that take place in the winter or have like wintry vibes. So the one I'm committing to for sure is Leech by Hiron Inez. And this is horror set in like an isolated chateau, and I think it's during the winter, like there's lots of snow. I think this one is gothic. I know there's things about worms. I know this one is also confusing. Like, I see this one recommended alongside for people who really like Gideon the Ninth, where you're okay with being confused and just letting the author guide you. So I think that's what this is. But I've had this on my TBR for forever, and I think it would be a perfect book to read for winterween. So we're gonna do that. I'm also, and like I said, I'm still like trying to feel out the rest of my TBR. I'd like to pick 2 more books for winterween that are kind of winter, cold, snowy vibes. I do also need to find a haunted house book. So we'll see. We'll see what I come up with. But I am definitely committing to this. And then I also am borrowing a book from my sister, and I would like to read it in January so I can get it back to her, so I'm not like hoarding it for forever. And I borrowed Throne of the Fallen by Carrie Maniscalco. I want to get into romantasy this year. I started to dip my toe in a little bit towards the last half of 2024, and I liked what I read. I'm still kind of picky. Like, I'm still easing back into reading romance. I wasn't able to read it for kind of a long time, but I'm slowly getting back into it and would like to read more. And I've heard really fun things about this particular romantasy series, and yeah, I just want to see. I want to see if it's for me, if I dig it, because I think it could be a good time. Though it is chunky, so there is that. Another one of my reading goals is to read more off of my Kobo and to read books that I've been letting languish on my Kobo for a while. That one's going to have to be more of a mood reading journey. I don't really know what I'm going to be in the mood for, and I don't really want to commit to anything right off the bat. So we're just going to leave that one as a, we'll see what I pick up. One, yeah. Oh, but that means we're going to pick 2 books from my TBR jar, because I dropped it down to 2 because I thought 2 would be maybe a little bit more manageable, especially like as I put all this stuff on my TBR, because I feel like I have such big eyes for my TBR in in January. Like, I just want to read all the things. I do have to update this though, because I haven't put all the books that I brought home in November and December on it. Nice. Okay, Wannabe is the book that I pulled. That's perfect. That's already on my TBR. Love that. That worked out so great for me. Universe was looking out for me. And then the second book is Infinity Gate. Okay, that kind of counterbalanced because that one's a chunker. Let me go get it. All right, here we have Infinity Gate by M.R. Carey. This is sci-fi. I read The Girl with All the Gifts and I really liked it, but I haven't read anything else by this author, so I'm really hoping that I like this. I bought this during Indie Bookstore Day a couple of years ago, I think. One of my friends at the time was the manager for an indie bookstore, and I asked her to hand sell me a book. And this is what she picked, so I'm hoping that I like it since she picked it out for me, but we'll see. I have seen good reviews for this, so I'm hopeful. It is just chunky. I have a lot of chunky books on my TBR, so let's hope that I prioritize reading in January the way I think I'm going to prioritize reading in January. You'd think that would be a good start. We're going to talk about more books. We're going to talk about the vlog plans for January real briefly. I am going to be doing a Ketchup and Pickles vlog that will be coming out really shortly after this one. And that will be mostly just me wrapping up what I'm currently reading in December so that I can start fresh on January 1st. So I guess that doesn't really affect my January TBR, thank goodness. And then I will probably do a random chill reading vlog of just reading whatever I want to read. And then I am going to be starting a new series this month called Read It or Trash It. And for January's episode of Read It or Trash It, I am going to be reading the shortest books on my TBR. So I'll give you kind of a sneak peek. Read It or Trash It is going to be what was formerly Wheel of Doom. So this is going to be mostly Libro FM audiobooks. So I won't give you the whole list because it's a lot, and I am definitely going to be mood reading through this list. But some of the ones that are on the list that I'm most excited to read are, whoa, the light just changed big time, are The Last White Man by Mohsin Hamid. This came out 2024 or 2023. But I've kind of had it, I've been eyeballing it for a while. I have read Exit West by this author, and I did enjoy it. I have realized since then that that there is racist language about Filipinos in Exit West, so let's hope the last white man doesn't have the same problem, because that would be a big old bummer. I also really want to read Full Speed to a Crash Landing by Beth Revis. This is sci-fi. I believe it's romance, or at least romantic, and it's short. Like, the audiobook is 4 hours long, so I'm pretty excited to read that. And then I might read Feed Them Silence by Lee Mandello. I haven't read any Lee Mandello yet. They write horror, and I've heard really good things about their books. I just haven't read any of them yet. So those are like a small smattering of things that I could pick up during that particular reading vlog. We'll see. We'll see what I'm in the mood for. All right. Did I forget anything? I hope not. But again, who knows? I'm doing my best. I think I got everything. I hope I got everything. Okay. But with that, I guess we can wrap up this January TBR now that it is fully overwhelming. There's a lot more books on this than I thought there were going to be. So anyways, I would love to hear what is on your TBR for January. And if you've read any of these and you have thoughts, let me know. I'd love to hear them. If you would like to just leave an emoji to let me know that you were here. Let's do confetti, the little confetti emoji, since it's the new year. Happy New Year. I guess this is going out before it's actually New Year's. So I hope you have a lovely New Year's and the last couple of days of 2024. And thank you so much for watching this video and for being here with me and for spending your precious time with me. I really appreciate it. And like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll talk to y'all in the next one. Bye!